left out anybody who is here, but thank you.
It's a little weird because
say
I'm over
something
here.
I can't say.
What?
We'll open it up to the audience in a second, but I will ask the first question. Well, first I want to say congratulations on this amazing film. Julie, you never do anything small, do you?
We're supposed to be. But what happens is, look, this is a life. How can it be small? We have 80 years of this woman's life and all those women's lives in 2.5 or less than 2.5 hours. So it's not small, but it was exciting. It was so thrilling and so inspirational and moving to me and eye-opening, all of it. And then there is the times we live in, right? They're not small times.
What was your relationship with Gloria prior to making the film, and how much did you collaborate in this film?
Well, we knew each other a little bit, but not very well. And Julie called me up and said she wanted to make a movie of the road book. And I think my exact words were something like, "You're a genius, you can do anything you want."
Try, but
No, really, because, you know, if you've seen her movies, you know that she is able to put emotion on screen in an unprecedented way. And then people used to ask me afterwards, "Do you have approval?" Right? And I was not 100% sure what approval meant. But I said, "Look, I have something better than approval. I have faith." Right?
here. Trust, right? All the filmmakers out there, trust and faith. Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, I was on the set once, I guess, really, in Georgia. That was the only time I was on the set.
Right.
Yeah.
And in New York, in your apartment.
Oh, yes, yes, that's me typing at the
Yes.
end. Right.
That's her.
Right, and standing in the window, that's me at the end.
Yeah, and we did meet beforehand because some of the stories that are in here aren't in the book. A few things that you know, what was fantastic in working with Gloria was all of you who ever do biopics, and I've done one before, the Frida one, but she wasn't living, so I didn't have the advantage of a living, you know, leading lady, heroine, hero, whatever we say now, so I could ask the questions. And some of the things aren't exactly true, like was Dolores at the convention, things like that. But I knew that conversation between Dolores Huerta and Gloria about pro-choice was absolutely fundamental to the movie. So I asked Gloria, would it be okay to stage that, which is a true interaction, in that setting? And
I asked Dolores, and she said yes.
And what would happen, and remember the other thing was, she complained about this in the first, she said, my house in Toledo, there was a highway in front of it. And I said, I know, but that was another visual effect, and if you saw the end titles, you saw, I mean, we shot almost all of this in Savannah and India. Just Gloria's apartment is the one in New York, but all those locations, as you could see, we shot it in Savannah. Now, you can't see that because we had to do a lot of green screen and find the archival, but when we found these locations in Savannah, like the one that is the neighborhood in Toledo, it was so perfect, it was right. And what I loved was she gave the blessing, which is, if it's emotionally right, it's right. So there are things that are, like she turned to me again today and said, that looks exactly like Ocean Beach Pier. You know, the very first one where the dancing was with the father. And we and Kim did a phenomenal job getting that. So yeah, incredible. And our two leading ladies are both in deep work or they would be here today. It's not that they don't love the film, it's just that they are both off working.
Yeah, the bad news is they're not here. The good news is that they're working.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to take some audience questions. Yes.
Thank you, Julie. I'm a female director. This is an amazing film. And Gloria, I feel like I'm going to cry. I met you in the 90s in San Francisco at a fundraiser. You actually took my phone call as a filmmaker talking about the adversity as a filmmaker and tried to help me. And the 90s is very different than today as a filmmaker. And I think what's so profound, because not only have you affected my life and so many women, is that, I'm trying not to cry, is that my daughter's...
Can you hear? Can you all hear? So is there a way to get her a mic?
I'll try to be very loud. As a filmmaker, you can do that, but my daughter is 27 years old, and she hasn't read your book. And no matter what I may tell her about what I've gone through, the idea that there is a film for the young women, you should be in history books, you should be taught in school. What you have done and what you captured, Julie, in such a short period of time is nothing less than remarkable. And I just feel like this movie is a legacy that will allow all the young women to know what you did. So thank you both.
Thank you. So I hope you did hear that. That's kind of what we want. and not just the young women. We want the young men. And we absolutely, this is for them and their sons and their daughters as well. And our mothers. My mother is 98 years old. And she's seen it 3 times, and maybe the second time she forgot the first, and the third she forgot the second. But this is her favorite thing I've done, because this is her life. And so we really feel that the cross-generational aspect of this film, we hope, is a big part of it. And God, it would be wonderful to have that in the schools, to really have this. We have a tremendous outreach that we're going to do with this film that we feel. And we have women here who are working on it, and we will get on that bus. And as she says, pressing send isn't enough, and it really isn't enough. So we're aware of that, and if this can just say that we just can't give up. It's not possible. The upside of the downside. I mean, I've been on the movie for 4 years now, so all her quotes are kind of, they're off the tip of my tongue. But they are a mantra that I now believe in, and if it reached your ears and your eyes, then we did our job.
It's why it's so important, obviously, that young women, old women, generations, men and women work together, because we all have something different to bring, right? I mean, as I was saying, being old is good because you have hope, because you remember when it was worse. Being young is great because you're mad as hell. So we need each other. And I think that that's the message of this film. And also, people are going through all different stages. The young women I meet who come from very religious or conservative families are in the same stage as this film. And then there are other young women and young men who are beyond gender, totally, the world is divided into 2 kinds of people, those who divide everything into 2 and those who don't, okay? And understand the intertwining of sex and race, so we're all in different stages of consciousness, and we hope people can plug into this, and we really want to use it for the next election to make sure that people get registered, get out there to vote.
And another thing that I think is so much her is those other women that I had no idea who any of these women were. Flo Kennedy, I'm from a political family, but I was an ignoramus, I have to say. So if this film at all opens up Google to Flo Kennedy, Wilma Mankiller, then we would be really pleased. And I mean that because these women deserve their own films, their own library, everything. So that is also a big part of this, is you can see in her life that she was led along the way. You should talk about that.
I learned feminism, as you can see, disproportionately from Black women. And in fact, that has been true of the women's movement from the very first Lewis Harris poll that was ever done about the women's liberation movement, which showed that more than 60% of Black women supported the issues in the movement, and only 30-some% of white women. Now,
I'm doing statistics, by the way.
But to look at the results of the last election, right? When 96% of Black women voted for Hillary Clinton. for whom we just saw a wonderful documentary. I hope you saw her documentary, right? And 51% of white women voted for Trump. So we have to, you know, sometimes I think there are two things, history and the past, and they are not the same, all right? We have to start making history way more accurate.
Yeah.
Viva la vida and Viva la mujeres, and from Frida to Gloria to Glorias to Bella, well done, really well done.
I wish Bella were alive to see Bette Midler doing her, right? It's fantastic.
Better than Harvey.
We have time for one more question. Yes, you.
Well, I think that the reason that Julie put the taxi cab in there was she wanted to show that I do freak out. And other than that, I can't claim that it's a conscious decision of any sort. I think of it as coming from the Midwest, where you have to be on LSD to know that we're having an emotion. So I get mad inside, you know. And then fortunately I have the outlet of being a writer, so I can write terrible, nasty, you know, things afterward, right?
I'm afraid that's all the time we have, but Julie, Gloria, thank you so much. Thank you for inspiring.